Have we already gone over our budget, which was $5,000 for building our tiny house? That question we're going to be answering in today's video. As you can see, I'm standing on our top floor, which is kind of the halfway point. So we decided to do a video of rounding up all the cost of how much it has costed us so far. And before we go downstairs and start with the very beginning of this project, make sure you comment how much do you actually think we have spent till now, till the half point. You think we have gone over 5,000? Have we stayed under? And yeah, so let us know in the comments how much do you think we have spent so far. We have split the cost of this build in 8 different sectors, so let's jump down. Well, not literally, but let's jump to the first thing, which was the land prep and the foundation. So let's go downstairs and talk about that.
So I have my list of all the things we have spent, and the first thing we did was clear off the land, and we did the clearing by hands. We used our tractor, which we already had, and it already had the diesel. I'm not going to count in the diesel because it was such a little use of the tractor. It was just to bring the rocks a bit over, and it's not really the most you can calculate. So I'm just going to go straight to the actual cost, which was the gravel we put below. And we also did a compactor to compact the gravel in, and that is total cost of 90 euros for prepping the area. So the next thing right below me here goes our plumbing. So this is the sewage and water line, and here goes the electric line. And this one, if we had hired an excavator, it would be extremely higher cost, but we did it by hands and that was free, just our physical work. Excavator would have probably added another 500 to this job, but our cost here is for plumbing, for pipes is 60. That was for sewage pipes. Then we have 15 for water pipe because it was such a short distance that we added, and that is with connectors, and 70 for electrical cable. We used a 4mm cubed electrical cable, so we have a lot of extra, so our power usage can go quite high, and that's total 145 for the utilities till that point. So the next step is foundations, these things right here that is holding the building up currently. And this cost was, the first thing we had to do is drill, so we drilled out. That costed 30 euros to rent with fuel. Then we had pipe, these ones here we used for forms. That was only 60 euros for all of them because it was quite short distance, we didn't need so much. Then it was metal, which was actually for free because most of it I had, and which I didn't have, my neighbor gave me because I was telling him about my plan. He's like, oh, I have loads of that laying around, I just give you. So the metal was free, but the work I've added 10 euros for actually prepping, like use of sandpaper discs, cutting discs, welding and painting. It was all just a bit of everything, so 10 euros just for that. Then we use these framing, these ones here, these are 50 euros all of them. And then we have cement and gravel, which is to pour these in. That was 25 euros with gravel and cement all calculated together. That brings the total just to make the pillars of 175 euros. Well, together with the wood, of course, this one's here, we're already in the cost. I do have concerns over the foundation, and I'm actually wanting to add a lot more of it. And also the mistake I did, I had it originally here and then one more in the middle and then on the end, so 18 foundation poles in the plans, which was more correct to be under the walls. I've talked with people and they say it needs to be under the walls. Currently the load is very little, but once you get wet snow on top, it can get really high load, and it's all gonna come right here, and these can not break, but they will bend because there's so much wood that it will not quite just snap off one of them, it has to snap all of them. It will more pop out in the middle like this, and that's not something we want. So we will probably add here in between same framing, and here we will just put every meter a foundation kind of going down, and we're gonna put it on concrete plates instead of doing foundation in, just concrete plates here, flatten this ground out, put concrete plates and support it. So that we'll have to do before we get too far on with the build and it gets too heavy. Definitely before winter it has to have foundations. Currently it can hold its weight, but it's gonna get heavier over the time. Let's move into the building and talk about the subfloor and the flooring.
So currently I'm sitting on the inside floor, and this costed us quite a bit since it's also insulated, as you have seen. So first thing is the OSB that we have on the bottom, that it has also the rubberite, that we actually got a really good deal because it was used, so that was 60 euros. It would be much more expensive if we would have bought the OSB from scratch, but luckily we found it used, so that was 60. Then we have the lumber for the framing, the bottom floor's framing, that was 350. Then we also have the plumbing that we did inside the framing for the bathroom and the kitchen that is built in into the subfloor. That was 20 euros. Then we did the insulation, which was 150. Then we also had wind barrier, that was 40, including the tape was 20. We did have the wind barrier, we opened a new roll, we still had some left, so there the cost is also maybe a bit too much, but we cannot calculate, you know, we could calculate by the square meter, but let's say 40 euros and 20 euros for the tape. I think that is pretty good. And lastly, we have the OSB, which was the second expensive thing after the wood framing, the wood that we used for framing, and that was 270 for the floor, and that gets us to the total of 1,085. I think that's a pretty good, reasonable cost for a fully insulated first floor. So let's now move on to the walls. So the walls is the first big expense and delivery of wood of 700. Again, here the cost is not exactly that much because we did have wood left over from the subfloor. So we're just kind of calculating the deliveries of the wood. And of course we used some of the wood from the walls for upstairs, and we had wood from before, as I said. So let's just say that the walls costed us 700. Then again, as you can see, we have the wind barrier. This was again another 40. We did use the half a roll that we had from the floor. We used half of it, and then another roll, and we still had some left over. And then, as you saw, we also installed the water pipes and the pipes for the heating. We did have a whole roll which we purchased actually 2 or 3 years ago, but we're still gonna calculate it in the cost, which was 30 euros. And then we also have the conduit. That was not really that expensive. I think it was like 10 euros for the whole thing, more or less. And lastly, we have those metal supports that we added later on. These ones were, I think, in total 30 euros. I think it was 25. And then these ones were super cheap. So I think it rounds up to roughly 30 euros. And yeah, the reason why this got a bit more expensive is because we added a lot more windows. As you have seen, we have quite a few windows that my mom wanted to add it. So it did add a bit on the cost of the supports that we had to add. But I think at the end of the day, you are happier to spend 100 euros more to have more windows than not having them later on. So yeah, actually, I didn't say the total cost. The total cost for the walls was 810. Actually, thinking that 700 was just the wood and another 110 was the rest is pretty good. And yes, you might be wondering, we have not added a screw cost or fuel or delivery van. This is all gonna be at the end. Since we don't want to go project by project how much screws we have used and bought, so we're gonna have this as a total cost at the end. So let's now move on to the last 3 things. And the 700 actually also includes this wall inside that you could see behind me. So this is also added into the cost. So let's now go upstairs, talk about the last floor and the 2 last things of the roundup of the cost.
So the next thing is subfloor framing for the second floor framing. And this one we have another cost because kind of a bit higher. And it is reasoning, a lot of it is because it was meant to be loft. It was supposed to be this size loft right here was supposed to end, and that side as well. Just 1 sheet of OSB. It's supposed to be the whole length of the lofts, 2 different stairs going up. So that added a bit more cost that we were not expecting. So our original budget, of course, is getting a bitty wreck just by all these extra costs that we're adding on, extra changes. But they are making this house kind of more better and much more usable in a sense, from being kind of a holiday home to more of a proper home you can live in. So let's now talk about the costs, which was the lumber to build the framing. That was 400 for all of this, and 140 was the OSB that goes on top. The insulation is another question lots of you had, why we adding insulation, but it was only 60 euros and it reduces sound. It is not meant mostly for heat. It is meant to actually dampen the sound because it gets quite loud, especially if you have an empty inside there. It will bounce a lot of sound up and down. That's why also we had to add the wind membrane, which was another 40 because we had to buy a new roll for that. And we used a bit of the roll left over from the wall, so another 40 for that. But that is important because of the dust of the rock wool can come through, especially when you walk. You're kind of creating this like bouncing, and the dust will, like the air will move and push the dust out, and you're putting that all in your room, upstairs and downstairs. So that had to be added for that reason. It's not to keep cold in or heat in, But it will help to keep the two rooms separate temperatures, so you're able to temperature control a lot more precise. So if you want your bedrooms warmer or colder, then the downstairs is going to be able to do that with the radiator adjustment. And the next thing is cables. For the lights was 20 euros. Wind barrier, as I said, was 40. And then the tape to connect all the wind barrier was 15. So the total cost of the subfloor for second floor is 675 euros. Now let's move on to the last two things.
The last two things that we have left for the end is the screws.
And the van and the fuel cost.
Yes.
How much it costed in diesel for this whole thing.
The screws, I was actually scared that it's gonna be much more expensive than it actually turned out. We have written, every time we bought some screws, we have written it down, and in total that is 250 in all the screws. We still have some packs left. We still have bought some packs for the top floor.
That does include also packs we have bought which we haven't used yet.
We haven't used, because as you have seen, we have used a lot of different types of screws: big screws, small screws, skinny screws, fat screws, all types of screws.
There's a lot of screws that we use only a bit. Like smaller screws we have in 500 packs, and we use only like 200-300.
Yeah, and then we have added kind of like 5 euros for staples and miscellaneous type of things. So we could say like 255, I guess, for screws and staples.
Yeah. All the tools that we have, of course, is not part of the cost because we already have them. We have not bought anything new since we have started. So once we have to buy something new, maybe we'll add it also because, you know, the project took that tool away. But then the next big thing is the van rental and the fuel cost. And this is much bigger than I was expecting. But this also does include, before I say the number, it does include also bringing things that are sitting right now, which is to finish this whole thing and to fill in all the gaps. So a lot of things are sitting on the side that we have already delivered. So the cost will include also those things, which is 200 euros for renting the van multiple times and 200 for filling it up with diesel. Somehow they kind of aligned both of them, added up together.
Because of course we loaded the van quite a bit. I think you can put the can down. You don't need to hold it anymore. So it adds up quite quick if you have a heavy van. And yes, as David said, we have, for example, windows, doors that are not in the build yet. We have not added them in the
That's
cost.
actually the higher cost because that was the furthest strips we did. Is for the things that are not here, like windows, doors, roof, insulation.
Yes.
Those things are actually still sitting. So in theory, those are not added to the cost. But that's part of the van cost.
Yeah. So, if you have been doing the math together with us, which probably you haven't because we have been going all over the place saying numbers, the total cost of the build is 3,640. I thought we were going to say that together.
You said it. Very good.
So, 3,640. And that cost is, of course, not to the last cent, to the euro, to the point.
It could be less, it could be more. 100
but only by 100. Only by 100 would not be 1,000 more or 1,000 less. It is rough cost because, as I said, a lot of things we had purchased 2-3 years ago, a lot of things we had sitting around like connectors, pipes, all those kind of things. So we kind of had to go back online and check. Prices have changed. So
we maybe spent less on the pipes than I calculated. The conduit might have been cheaper. Things like that.
I think at the end of the day, we over-calculated by 100 or 200 than under-calculated.
Yeah, we rather add a bit extra for things we're forgetting than rather under-calculating it and cutting things off. Because we do want to be true to ourselves as well.
Yes.
And then the next thing you have to write down in a comment, if you think we're going to stay under 5,000, judging by the cost currently with all these things missing, I definitely don't think so.
I don't think so. But we did get the windows used, so that is cheap. Got the door used, so that is cheap. So we are trying to stay under the cost, not only for the reason to do it as a challenge yet. Yes, it is fun to do a challenge under 5,000.
But it's mostly because we have the lack of funding, lack of budget.
Yes, we will talk. We are planning to do a live stream about it to get more in depth of this topic. But the reason why it is so cheap, a lot of people might be already thinking that we're over our 5,000 or we are over 10,000. Of course, you don't know the cost here. I don't blame you. Yeah. But the reason why it's so cheap is because we're doing everything ourselves. Yeah. But still, on a high standard, we're still researching. Yeah. A lot of people said we were overdoing it. Yeah. And a lot of
we did have a building engineer visit, so he said everything looks structurally fine, everything is good. And that the framing looks perfectly fine, standard, the way they do them here in Latvia. Your standards might be completely different, and also every builder is going to do it differently. Some said that we're overdoing it, it's completely overkill, and some say we're not doing anywhere near enough, we should do way more. So it's all kinds of people with different opinions.
And at the end of the day, you cannot please everyone. And we're doing it the way we feel it's right and the way that we have seen around us that it's being done. So we're trying to not cut corners. We already are really annoyed of the foundation that we cut corners there. So from now on, we're trying to go all in. Even the cable, it might not seem that it's the fattest, but it is mostly everywhere the proper cable, the electrical cable.
1.5 millimeter cube.
Yes. So some things also in the camera might seem smaller, bigger.
Yeah.
Of course,
a lot of people that visited us here, they thought in the video that the framing is like less closer to the American standard than it is actually. It's a lot bigger in real life. Most people have said it's bigger in real life than it is in videos.
Overall, the whole building looks bigger.
The whole building and all the materials and
the structure.
The structure is safe and solid. And walking in here, lots of people were thinking that it's going to be bouncy, it's going to be wobbly, but you feel like it's a solid floor, really solid, and sounds good. A lot of these things that we're doing, we're learning, we're trying our best to be better. Of course, next building we're going to build even better. So, and the last thing I want to say is the conventional building, you do build all the frame first, and then comes in all the rest of the people to do the plumbing, insulation, plastering. So it's all different skills of people, all big groups and companies. So yes, you can throw up the framing quickly and then do all the rest of the jobs, but we are just two of us, first of all, mostly me building, Despina filming.
Well, I'm building as well.
You're building a lot as well, but I'm saying like we are just a team of two and we do everything ourselves. So there's not going to be plumber and electrician coming in after and doing everything for us.
So we are trying to think it ahead, what needs to be done.
And the weather was the bigger problem.
Weather, of course.
That's why we had to do the wrapping and everything rushed. We did want to do just framing and then do the rest like normally. That was the plan. But the summer has been treating us really awfully and...
Yeah, and lastly, sorry, one last thing I want to say. A lot of you have been wondering if we did it in 30 days. Of course, not.
The time limit was more of a joke, as in we didn't want to put people in tents.
Yes, but I have to say that this far we have done in 25 videos, which includes that in a lot of videos got split in parts, which means that we only have worked 20 days. Yeah. So the 30-day work would have worked if the weather would have worked with us.
Yeah, if we could work every day.
Every day, we would be able to do it in 30 days. The weather
we would be quite far in 30 days if the weather was good. Because now we have spent 2 months on the build and we have gotten the 20 days of work realistically in, and the rest has been rain. Maybe it doesn't feel in the videos, but it has been raining more than we've been working.
We have had days, we work like 3 days and then we have a week of rain. Okay, I think we're getting like way to talk. We're now blabber mode, and I think this is
becoming a podcast at this point.
Perfect time to end this video. We are going to be doing a live stream, so drop down all your questions. It's going to be, not sure when this video is going up because we are also quite ahead with videos. It might not seem because we're posting every other day or every third day. We are filming a lot ahead, so probably we are planning to do it either Saturday or Sunday, the upcoming one. Let us know all your questions, all your worries, all your everything that you want to know. So there we're gonna talk for hours, hopefully not too long.
No.
So yeah, let's cut this video here. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope
you're enjoying the build. Hope you like what you're seeing. And it's going to be a still fun and interesting build, even if the budget is going to be slightly more. It's still going to be ridiculously cheap compared to what companies offer and what you can buy. So I still think we are achieving a good goal. Plus, we have added a lot of extras which were not in the original plan of the 5,000. So maybe that could be extended. The weirdest thing is going to be the title. How are we going to deal with that?
Yeah.
Plus, also the size of it is not anymore a tiny house.
Okay, we said we're ending it. You're going on and on. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and we're going to see you in the next one. I hope the camera is recording because it doesn't have a blinker, so...
We don't know.
We don't know.
Could
hope
be
you
talking
enjoyed.
for no one.
Was it? Oh, it's recording. Oh, that was 10 minutes of talking? That was a lot of talking.